Shalom, this is a beat back with the edification for those that are taking heed to the agendas and the spiritual war that's waged against us Israelites and Hebrews, according to prophecy. I wanted to touch on this reparations with so-called blacks in Babylon, aka America. And just put a little sauce on these ribs real quick of a subject. I came across this article and it says opinion. And this is Martin Vidal, looks like an Edomite, who wrote this article. And it says, should the U.S. pay reparations to black Americans? It says, Salaki, if you hear some background noise or something, I'm at the laundromat. And there's some people. Let me give them a chance to make some noise real quick before I continue this article. Okay. So, this article, it says, we're faced with the impossible choice of leaving a critical debt, right? A critical debt unpaid, or obligating a generation that wasn't directly responsible to pay it. So-called whites will constantly attempt to excuse themselves from what their forefathers did. Okay? And I'm going to dissect this statement. We are faced with the impossible choice of leaving a critical debt unpaid. Okay? Now, in 2024, these so-called whites have not corrected the wrongs that their forefathers committed against the so-called blacks, right? So if we look at this statement, because the so-called whites are constantly attempting to justify the wrongs of their forefathers because they're proud of them. Their forefathers were white supremacists. Okay? This is why I made a previous video about the people versus U.S. citizens. And I made a biblical, I gave a biblical explanation to why it makes sense the way it makes sense, okay? The colonials that so-called found or discovered this land called America were white supremacists. Let me put this phone on airplane mode so that no one interrupts my edification. Okay. The founding fathers of America were white supremacists. And those white supremacists created a governing body that creates laws for the citizens to abide by and obey. Okay? Now, the descendants of Edomites don't want to take responsibility for what their forefathers did. They make up every excuse not to take responsibility for what their forefathers did. Okay? And the way they do it is they get crafty and try to excuse themselves by all means. Okay? So, what caught my attention about this article is the title and the comment section. Okay? I'm gonna let this slideshow play. Okay, here goes the comment at the top. The comment reads, "Why is it necessary? Doesn't an apology work? America has apologized and by some measures already paid reparations in the form of programs, grants, housing, food stamps, health care, and many other government giveaways. Many black people have prospered from this help, but many others have used those programs to be generational families using only portions of the programs just to get by. Poverty is due to lack of education, guidance, and poor choices. Reparations shouldn't be paid for being in poverty. That is a choice." Okay, so I can hear that. I can hear that voice from Dr. Dre Chronic album. Here's what they think about you. 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 Okay. When I study white supremacy, and let me talk about how when so-called whites take over foreign territories, or let me say, when the so-called white supremacists are interested in a resource that's in another country, they'll send one of their politicians to that country, and that politician will attempt to create a deal in exchange for the resources, okay? Or in exchange for the agenda, right? Now, the incentive packages that white supremacists offer foreign nations they range from computer labs to programs, okay? Computer labs to programs, okay? Programs are not financed by white supremacy once the foreign country receives the program. So like if there's a computer lab given to a foreign nation, the white supremacists are not financing the laboratory after the deal is made. So they'll make a short-term agreement to, boost this program in exchange for the resource, okay? Now, programs for so-called blacks are not reparations, Okay. The damage that programs have done to so-called blacks still take place till this day in 2024. Okay. Generation after generation of Section 8 recipients and welfare recipients. You have projects, which are housing projects, okay, that are damn near ground zero when it comes to the black family, okay? A lot of these programs don't allow a woman to even have a family with a husband and offspring while on these programs, okay? So systematically, these so-called blacks are displaced purposely in the form of a program. Okay, programs are funded not to, what did he say? Prosper. Programs are not funded for so-called blacks to prosper. They're funded to keep so-called blacks impoverished, because one reason is in order to qualify for the programs, that individual has to earn less than a certain amount in order to even qualify. So let's say there's an individual female who's looking for housing, and then the program tells this woman, sure, we'll help you with housing, except you earn too much money. So sure, the program is a means to bypass having credit, but that woman will have to pay damn near the same amount she would be paying if she was to have her own, or to rent her own, or to be able to rent her own place by her own means. So it still goes off income, right? Will the house be paid off, and will she own the residence? No. But the programs, they pretend to help, but it's designed to keep a person at a certain level. Because if that individual exceeds this finance level or this income level, the program will increase the price, or increase the rent, if you will. Okay, so programs are not set in place for so-called blacks to prosper, and for so-called blacks to achieve their independence. Okay, now I'm referring to government-funded programs, Section 8 welfare, child support, things like that. Okay, because child support Title 4D receives federal fundings in exchange for applications. Okay, so they get their federal funding. Okay, so it's like, here's what they think about you, so-called blacks. Now, so-called blacks have perpetuated being U.S. citizens and being dependent on the United States. Okay, that's the separation from being dependent on the United States is the prosperity. Okay, being independent and a sovereign nation is prosperity. That's prosperity. Okay, these so-called whites, they're redefining prosperity. Okay, being impoverished and being a dependent on on the United States generationally is not prosperity. Okay, separating from the United States and trading with other nations as a nation is prosperity. Okay, separating from a nation and having your own governing body and being a nation with your own race is prosperity. Okay, That's prosperity. Okay, so I want to talk about reparations, and I hope I'm not losing anybody to this subject. Reparations biblically is being a nation and being in your own land, okay, with your own governing body and your own military, okay. It's like playing musical chairs when it comes to so-called blacks because they don't have their own nation, okay. Like when you play musical chairs, you got everyone has to have a place to sit, and whoever doesn't is eliminated. So that's, so-called blacks are not even rising to and playing the game according to the rules, right? So-called blacks in America are playing football with basketball rules, okay? So this is Numbers at the bottom of this slideshow. This is Numbers 10 and 9. And if ye go to war in your land against the enemy that oppresseth you, then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and ye shall be remembered before the Lord your God, and ye shall be saved from your enemies. That's salvation. Okay? Reparations is going to come in the form of salvation. Okay? The beginning of reparations for so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians is going to begin once that our nation separates from our enemies. Okay? That's going to be the beginning of reparations. Okay? Salvation is a part of reparations for so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. And that comes in the form of separating. Coming back to your God, okay, unsubscribing from Western religions, okay, and coming back and serving your God, and you will be placed in your own land, okay, and you will be redeemed, okay. That's the beginning of so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians salvation and prosperity, okay. That's what I wanted to make this about, okay. So I thought this article was, it had me thinking, and I said, let me go ahead and do this because this comment, okay, it caught my attention, okay. And here we go again at the bottom. Mrs. Matthew 24 and 40 through 45. It says, let me turn it sideways for a second. It says, then two men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. Okay, one will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and the other left. Okay, two women will be grinding, like working at the mill, at work, and one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. Okay, that's salvation. That's prosperity. Okay, that's reparations. Okay, Isaiah at the bottom on the right. Isaiah 14 and 21 through 22. Okay, Isaiah 14 and 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. So when the article says we are faced with the impossible choice of leaving a critical debt, okay, now so-called white supremacy, or not so-called, but so-called whites and their supremacy, they don't mind funding Ukraine or funding any foreign nation. They'll give trillions of federal notes to another country, and they don't mind going in debt to help another country of Edomites, okay, of so-called whites. But when it comes to so-called blacks and melanated people, they question Why would we help so-called blacks get on their feet? You know, why would we give them a great sending away? Why would we finance their separation, right? I'm gonna do a video on this movie called Space Traders, where the aliens, the UFOs, and the aliens showed up and they wanted all the melanated people on the planet and the so-called whites, along with Mr. Benson. If y'all don't know Mr. Benson, you got to go back and watch Webster. Okay, and you'll see Mr. Benson. He was sitting at the political table with these white, so-called white leaders in Babylon, and he was explaining to them we shouldn't, or they shouldn't, give up all the blacks, you know, to the aliens. Okay, and the aliens was going to give the so-called whites a resource that was like 100 times greater than any natural resource that they have on this planet, and they still said no, because having dominion over melanated people is white supremacy. And why the Edomites were thinking, why would we do that? Why would we give up our dominion? It's like the Edomites, they have no dominion unless it's over the so-called blacks. So this is why reparations is not a good idea to so-called whites. Now, the other part of this statement says, or obligating a generation that wasn't directly responsible to pay it. So again, these so-called whites are trying to excuse themselves as the descendants of white supremacy. Their own stolen land. They have a stolen way. They have a white supremacist way of life, and they're not in no way shameful about what their forefathers did to gain this land, right? To gain this land. So this is what I wanted to point out, because Isaiah 14 says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquities of their fathers. So they're going to pay this tab, okay? And it's going to come, okay? Revenge against these Edomites is going to come. For some, they wonder when. Why hasn't it already happened? When? Okay, but it's coming. Okay, and the descendants of the forefathers that were white supremacists, they're going to pay for what their forefathers did. Okay, whether they like it or not, whether they believe, agree or not. Okay, it's going to happen. Okay, the fall of America is going to happen, and it's all because of what their forefathers did to the Israelites. Okay. So I just wanted to make this video real quick. I didn't want to make it long, but reparations for so-called blacks is going to come in the form of salvation. Okay, being in our own land. Okay, being in our own land, being a nation, being in our own land as a people, as a nation. Okay, that's when reparations is going to happen. Okay, and then we can blow the trumpet and we'll be saved from our enemies. Okay. So with that said, I want to say shalom. I hope all of my followers, all 94 of you, are in great health. I hope you and your loved ones are safe, and I hope you are taking the proper measures against these agendas that are waged against us as a people. And here's what they think about you. This is what they think about you, the so-called whites. Programs are your reparations, okay? Not salvation, and they believe, or they say the programs are for your prosperity. That's your reparations, right? That's your reparations. And I think so-called blacks are foolish for accepting programs as a form of prosperity. Okay? When separating, unsubscribing from the ways of the West is frowned upon. Okay, so again, I want to thank all my followers. I hope you're safe. Hope your loved ones are in great health, and you yourself. And stay tuned for the next edification. I hope I edify somebody with this. And yes, excuse me for the noise in the background. I'm out here at the laundromat. Just wanted to put this out there. So shalom.